Welcome back to Rapid Tech in 10, where we give you tech-related takeaways in 10 minutes or less. I am your SoftwareOne host, Bree Sharpella, and joining us this month, I'm super excited to announce Darlene Burke, Director of Application Services for Americas at SoftwareOne. Darlene, welcome. Super excited to have you on and chatting with us today.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let's get started right away. Always have an icebreaker question. So we're going to start with that. My favorite way to kick these off. I'd love
Mhm.
to know maybe what inspired you to get into the tech industry, and even maybe chat with us about how you ended up in your current role today.
Sure. It's a great question, and I'm going to try and keep the answer very brief, even though the tech history is fairly long. Actually, I started in my career in technology working for my dad's company years and years and years ago. I think when the dinosaurs were still walking the earth. My dad used to own a Caterpillar dealership in Canada, which I'm originally from, and I started working in his dealership in the tech industry, in the tech area in the summers, and that was my part-time job in the summers. So that's, I think, where my passion started, and I kind of kept it going. Throughout my entire career, there's been that common theme and that common thread. But most recently, I joined SoftwareOne in April of last year, and I had previously been at a very large hyperscaler where I was in professional services, selling professional services, largely into enterprise customers as well as ISV and D&B customers as well. But then prior to that, I was actually leading a team of cloud platform engineers at Whole Foods Market. And I was working on the digital technology team, leading up a team. And we were a shared services team supporting all of our external customers. So I guess the short way of saying that is I was an external customer of Amazon, and then I became an internal customer of Amazon. And then I actually moved across to AWS, where I was actually helping our customers solve some of the challenges that I had learned to solve or try and solve myself. And then I moved across here to SoftwareOne really to look at how I can now scale that into our application services business. So very excited to be here.
Amazing. That is quite the story. I love hearing a little bit of background to where, you found your sweet spot today. So without further ado, let's dive into some of our main questions today.
Sure.
Looking back at last year, SoftwareOne conducted what we called our CIO Pulse Survey, right? Which found that 92% of respondents reported that digital innovation can, drive those new revenues ahead. However, there is a challenge considering the weight of this big word that we're all talking about these days called technical debt.
Yep.
Now, we outlined what technical debt is in our latest newsletter, so I'll make sure to link that for everybody listening in. But I can imagine many of our viewers have encountered it at some point. They may even have a lot of questions around it. So, Darlene, I'm curious to know what impact does technical debt have on businesses today? We hear those obvious ones, but what else? Do we see this trap getting deeper and wider? Maybe talk us through a couple points there.
It's a great question and a great topic. So I was really excited when you reached out to talk about this today. You can look at technical debt as being a challenge for a lot of companies, but it can also be a big driver and a big motivator. And it can be broken down into three really distinct categories in terms of technical debt can be either something that was intentional and something that was planned in, companies knowing we're not going to be able to meet this particular goal or this particular milestone. So we're willing to make some sacrifices on the technical debt side of things in order to be able to maybe launch a new product, things like that. Then there's also the technical debt that comes through, technology changing and being just sort of a little bit caught behind. And then as well, you can have sort of that unintentional technical debt as well that comes along, just from purely not being able to complete some of the efforts that you want to complete. But ultimately, I think there's an opportunity for a lot of companies to really look at, how that builds up and how they balance that in terms of meeting their business goals and those outcomes. And it's not an easy challenge, I think, for a lot of companies. And it's something that, as I said, they really have to find that balance because you can want to move forward, but then you recognize that, okay, we've got this tech debt sitting here with us and maybe holding us back. But then you can also look at it and say, okay, at some point there's a tipping point where you're actually going to recognize that that technical debt is going to be something that either you can continue to manage, or it really is going to propel you forward because you're going to have to make a very large decision as to what you want to do. So it can be a motivator as well as an inhibitor. And but it's also, you can look at technical debt in little pieces and pockets, because every area of the organization is going to have some degree of difference in terms of the technical debt that they're facing at any given time. And so it's really now you're balancing across the entire portfolio and looking at it. And I think probably the biggest category for a lot of companies is, am I running, on premises, or am I running in the cloud? And though that's probably the biggest gap. And then probably the other side of it as well is on the data side. And so, what am I doing from a tech debt perspective on the data side? And given where we're at with, artificial intelligence, and everybody's wanting to move into this new realm of AI, but it's so dependent on what you have from a data platform perspective. And so I think that's one of the biggest pieces that a lot of companies are dealing with as well and it's something that I think a lot of organizations have been able to manage for some time. But as data becomes more and more prevalent in everything we're doing, and the applications we're running and feeding everything we're doing, it can be a real challenge for a lot of companies. And a lot of companies, I think, have decided to maybe put the data side of things aside and maybe focus more on what they're doing from an application perspective, and are now finding they're maybe playing a little bit of catch up because they were lacking that foundational capability on the data side, but now they want to take that leapfrog step into the world of AI. So again, I think to summarize, it's a balance, and it's a challenge for a lot of companies to really look at. And to your point, where's the business value in it? And that's the biggest piece: is how do you take what you've got to do from a business perspective, and see how do we meet it based on where we're at from a technology perspective, and try and balance that out overall.
Yeah, and I love that you used it's a driver, right? Because I think a lot of people hear it and they get really scared by the term, but it
Right.
actually isn't always a bad thing. It can be a really
No.
good thing that helps you get to that next step. So speaking of leapfrogging, you
Yeah.
used that term, which was beautifully said for our next question. I want to take this a step further. We know technical debt obviously can hinder the overall success and timing of digital transformation,
Hmm.
which is really important in the present state of the world today. You mentioned AI,
Right.
all of these big pieces coming up. If someone's looking to bring in a partner to help tackle technical debt and accelerate their digital transformation, what should they look for? I know there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of people stating they can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Maybe what would you look for or help a customer or a prospect to make informed decisions on that?
It's another great question, and I think it goes back to really what we're looking at from a business perspective. And so there's a great opportunity, and there's so many partners out there who have so much technical capabilities, and uh, if you start looking at companies from a purely technical perspective, sometimes a lot of partners look the same. So where I would look for, and what I would look for in a partner, is a partner who can really help you identify what the business value, and help you build a business case for what you want to do, and really start with what is your company trying to achieve from a business perspective, from a goal. So you talked a little bit about, the revenue. Can it be a revenue driver? Can it be a reduction in operating costs? Things like that. Can it increase your security posture, reduce your risk? So really having a partner that can understand, because anybody can come in and say, yes, I can modernize this application for you, and you're going to then start looking at individual skill sets, but that becomes really tactical. So I would look for the partner that can really help you and understand and build and drive your strategy, and look at your entire portfolio. So look at, maybe what you're doing from an app modernization standpoint, from a data and AI standpoint, maybe what you're doing from an ERP standpoint as well, how you're managing and rationalizing your entire portfolio, and how that ties back to your business goals. Because a lot of companies are looking at things, and sometimes it's a deer in the headlights type of approach, because there's so many challenges. And my experience has been that most of the companies that we've worked with, and most of my customers, have really wanted a partner that can come in and say, help me really build out my roadmap for the next 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 years. I think I have an idea of what I should be doing, but you have done this repeatedly with customers over and over and over again. So I want somebody to come in and help validate that for me. So really to become a trusted advisor, and to become a partner, rather than just looking at it from a vendor perspective. So I would say really try and find somebody that you feel understands your business, your industry, what's happening, and then can help translate what those technical goals are into meeting your strategic goals goals and your business outcomes. So that's where I would really look for that differentiator around somebody who can really help you do that. And that's what we like to do here at SoftwareOne is start with the business, work backwards from there, help our customers look at their entire portfolio, the licensing, help them reduce the cost there where possible to help fund that digital innovation process and really look towards driving that. So again, start with the business, then figure out the technology. Customers ultimately are looking for, I always like to say that customers don't necessarily buy the technology. They're not looking to buy technology. They're looking to buy what it can do to help solve their business problems and meet their business goals. So I would find a partner who can help you identify those and really work with you on those particular areas.
Those are amazing insights. And it's such an aha moment when you can look at your entire portfolio and find maybe there's a few things here we can optimize. We didn't realize that. Like that is, I think, the beauty of a good partnership. Darlene,
Yes.
thank you so much for discussing these important yet very tough topics sometimes with us today. And I'd like to extend a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in again to SoftwareOne's Rapid Tech in 10. To learn more about the ways you can tackle your technical debt and how SoftwareOne can help, I will link them in the comments. And from your friends in Tech at SoftwareOne, thanks so much for watching. Thanks, Darlene.
Thank you.